Welcome back to another episode of Hazy Talk. Today I'm going to talk about a pain point for so many graphic designers, myself included, and that is starting over. Have you ever found yourself halfway through a project and then you realize you need to start over? It sucks. It's awful. There's a lot of reasons why you may need to start a project. Some of them may be valid. Maybe you get asked to. Maybe the budget got reduced. Maybe something completely out of your control happened. But usually, most times in my experience, starting over is something that can be completely avoidable. It's up to the graphic designer usually, and it's the responsibility. So in my experience, every time that I've had to start over, it's kind of been my fault. And here's why. I haven't always done the best job of making sure that whatever I'm pitching or the idea that I'm moving forward with is actually going to be the best one. And I think just over time doing so many projects now in my 10 years of doing graphic design, I've just realized that there's a formula to just avoiding some of the headaches that us graphic designers go through. So like I said earlier, there's multiple reasons why you may need to start over. And some of them are avoidable. Here's one of them. This one is proofing the concept. It's fairly simple, but it's something that I think most designers, especially beginners, miss. And that is just making sure that the idea that you're pitching is going to make sense. I think us graphic designers, we love ideas. We get excited about the projects that we're doing and the potential solutions that we can explore and eventually land into and execute. And I think sometimes we just miss that we need to do a little bit of due diligence when it comes to making sure that the idea is not just the great or the greatest solution for the project, because ultimately that's our responsibility, but that it's also something that actually realistically is going to unfold in the best way possible. And so today I'm just going to give you some practical handles on how I proof an idea or a concept, things that have worked for me over the years. Okay, so I'm going to start with a list of things that I look for when I'm reviewing an idea, and then I'm gonna walk you through some practical next steps and things that you can actually do, okay? So some of the things that I look for: do I have the skills, or should I pitch something that's within my wheelhouse? So all of us graphic designers, we have strengths and weaknesses, right? For example, one of my weaknesses is branding. Well, I should rephrase that. I'm really great at branding. I should say logo design. Which is a more specific aspect of the entire branding world. I suck at logo design. Can you imagine being a graphic designer going to art school and not being great at logos? Awful, right? Great way to start my career. But it's something that I really had to just recognize and own up to and be okay with. I have strengths in storytelling and vision and concepting and putting teams together and adhering to a timeline. So I have a lot of strength to bring to the table when it comes to a creative project, but there are just weaknesses of things that I'm just not great at, which makes me a good collaborator, because at the end of the day, we all have our strengths and our weaknesses. And so we need other people around us to make us better. That's the beauty of working in collaboration. Okay. So one of the things that you want to look for is your skill set. Don't pitch anything that you are unsure that you're going to be able to do. And the thing is, sometimes we get excited. I've been there, and I have pitched things and I'm like, how the heck am I going to do this? I don't actually know how to draw. And so then that can put you in a little bit of a pickle. And we all know how frightening those kinds of situations are. Okay. So just whenever you're pitching an idea, do your very best to make sure that it is within your wheelhouse, okay? And by the way, I have my iPhone here. This is part of my newsletter. I can't talk today. Newsletter, Hazy Talk. It goes out every Monday, and so I'm actually just going through the email. Okay, here's another one. Is it within the budget? Now, you're a graphic designer. Why do budgets matter to you? Here's the thing. I really believe that the key to any success that I've had is because I look outside of graphic design. I try to take in the entire picture. That's what makes me a good creative leader. Like, I'm able to lead a team because I don't just look at one aspect of a project, I'm able to look at it in kind of a 360 holistic viewpoint, and also a creative business owner. Okay, so the more you can kind of get out of the graphic design kind of mindset, the better it is. Now, I'm not saying, to throw it out the window, because you need to be good at what you're doing as a graphic designer. What I am trying to appeal to you is that the more you can consider other things than just the graphic design that you're doing, the better off you're going to be. Okay, so a budget, just think about it. How important is a budget? Even if it's $0, it's good to know it's $0, okay? But it's good for you to just account for everything that's going to go into the project to make sure that it's within budget, especially if you're working as part of an in-house team, or especially a client. Clients do not like to go over budget. And so if you put yourself in a situation where you didn't account for that, for example, you needing an asset from Shutterstock or the license. Let's do that. That's a better example. You put an asset, right? You grabbed a Shutterstock vector file that you found. You put it into the logo, and now you need a license, and the license is going to cost you $1,000. Well, that was not part of our budget, and so now you find yourself in a bit of a situation. Okay, so you want to make sure that you're looking as good as possible all of the time. All right. Here's another one. Can I actually do this within the timeline? Important timelines. Every project has a beginning and an end, and a bunch of stuff that happens in between. I talk about, if you've been following me, I talk about the creative process and the creative brief and collaboration, all of these things that happen within the beginning and the end of a project. Okay, that is the timeline. So the better that you get at knowing the timeline of things. Okay, how long is this logo going to take me? How long is this illustration going to take me? If I hire someone, how long is that going to take? How long is it going to take me to find the right color? If I need to get a license, how long is that going to take? Like, all of those things that the decisions that you end up making as part of your creative work should all be considered as part of the timeline. Okay, now if it's outside of the timeline, well, again, you're in a bit of a pickle. So try to avoid that, because sometimes timeline adjustments, especially if they overextend too much, can affect the budget. And here's another one, the last one. What additional resources will it require? So let me give you an example. I'm doing a project right now with my husband Angel for his apparel company called Goddess Designer, and we are doing a photo shoot. And so I'm trying to think of all of the things that we need. So we're doing a photo shoot outside in Miami in September. It's still hot, y'all, in Miami, okay? So I'm like thinking through, okay, do we need tissue? Do we need like little water spritz? Do we need water bottles? Do we need a cooler? Do we need ice? Like all of that stuff. And then again, that gets added onto the budget. And so it may impact your budget. So even something as making a decision for when you want to have a photo shoot can affect your budget and your timeline. Maybe you're going to be like, no, maybe it's better to do it in a studio where I don't have to worry about so many things. Okay. You're tracking so far. I hope this is making sense to you. Now that you've kind of made those observations, I think those are key, right? So you're looking at skill, you're looking at budget, you're looking at timeline, you're looking at resources, all very essential things of any creative project. Okay. Now here's some practical ways of actually applying this stuff. Okay. So let's start with the budget. Make a budget sheet. Easy. One column is the item name. The other column is the price with a little sum box at the bottom that gives you the total. Okay. And so I need water. I need napkins. I need the spritz. So I need water and bottles for the little spritz. I need ice. I need a cooler. Add it all to your budget sheet. Okay. And then see the total. Can I do that? Is that something that's within the budget? If yes, go for it. If not, then maybe you got to go back and edit your idea a little bit. Okay. Here's another one. Actually build out the timelines. Okay. Some of you work by yourself. Some of you don't have all the resources that you need. Some of you work with project managers. Some of you don't. If you work with a project manager, you got an advantage because they do a lot of this work for you. If you don't, this is something that you got to learn. And I'm a firm believer that the better a designer can learn how to build a timeline, the better they're going to be off. You know, like I can work with a project manager, and because I'm the one that actually does the work, I can still give better timelines than a project manager does, because a project manager does not actually do the graphic design. So whenever I'm working, I try to keep a timeline, a record in my mind. Sometimes I even track my time of how long things are going to take. Okay, so very practically, just build out a timeline. Here's how you do it. Let's go back to the photo shoot. Okay, so we need a deck, we need an idea, we need references, we need to pick a location, we need to pick the time of day, who's gonna shoot this, we need a photographer, we need a videographer, right? Because we're gonna use this for the website, we're gonna use this for Adobe Max. Do we do BTS? Well, that would be cool for storytelling and social media, right? Do we need water? All of those things, right? So that's just for the photo shoot itself. When do we need these photos for? Are we going to print them for Adobe Max? Do we want to make a lookbook? So then you kind of just list out all of your deliverables, and then you estimate how long things are going to take, and that gives you a rough timeline. Okay, let's go to another one. You can build a mock-up, a low fidelity concept or version, or a prototype. Okay, sometimes graphic designers work with physical products. If you're doing a packaging design, if you're doing editorial where you're doing an actual magazine or something like that, those are physical objects, right? They all have timelines attached to them, they all have costs and skills attached to them. And so you want to do your very best to make sure that the idea that you're pitching is actually going to fall within the scope that you need it to fall. Here's an example. A few years ago, I did a book, a coffee table book for Vue Church for the 5-year anniversary. And so I needed to do printouts of that book just for editing and review. And every time I printed out, it was like $300 because the book itself was 200 pages. And so whenever we did a printout at Office Depot or Staples, and we printed all of those 200 pages, that was the cost. And so if I needed to do that times 3 times, then that's $600 within the budget, you know? So just little things like that, that as you are making your decisions are going to help you. Now, here's another example. With the environments team at Vue Church, sometimes I could pitch an idea, and then it looks easy on paper, but then the execution of that idea is actually a lot more complicated. So sometimes you can build a prototype for that idea. Sometimes you just have a conversation with that person that's actually going to execute it, which is actually one of the other practical things that you can do, is just have conversations with people around the vitality of the idea, especially if you're just going to give a concept and somebody else is going to execute. I highly recommend that you run those ideas by them. Another reason why I would build a prototype or a mock-up, it would be something like a website. So like just estimating how long a website would take. Maybe I do like a sitemap and a really rough wireframe of something, and then I'm able to get the idea of how many sections and things like that I'm going to actually have to do. So sometimes building a mock-up, a prototype, or just a lo-fi of something is going to help you feel more confident about the idea that you're going to pitch, okay? And ultimately, that's where I'm landing. You want to start ideas in a really confident way, where you feel like, I got this. Not only do I got the execution of it creatively, but I have made sure that this thing is going to work, okay? When you start a project feeling that way, man, there's hardly anything that can stop you. And just the joy and the playfulness and just the fun that you have when you work on projects like that, it's awesome. It makes you a better person to work with. You're a better collaborator to your oversights. You're more valuable because you pitch ideas that make sense and that work within the limitations that you have. Okay, so I'm giving you all of this information, not just so that you can be better at making graphic design, but overall so you can be more confident, because at the end of the day, that's what we're all looking for, right? We all just want to feel really great about the things that we're doing and the things that we're pitching. And I definitely know that when I started, I had no idea, I had no clue, and just who I am now compared to who I was when I first started, I'm so much more confident. And a lot of that has just been trial and error. So I'm just sharing this stuff with you to hopefully boost you and give you a little bit of a cheat code that's going to help you avoid some of the mistakes that I did. So if this was helpful, if you found it intriguing, if you found it helpful, like you saw results in it, or if you have feedback or notes or questions, whatever it may be, I want to hear from you because this stuff is for you. I'm making it for you, and I want to make sure that it's resounding. Is that a word? Man, I gotta work on my English language. Is resounding a word? It's a word. I don't know if the application's right. All right, friends. I'll see you around. Have the best day.